Hello and welcome to Horror Rewind. This is Kelly Florence.
And I'm Meg Hofdahl.
And today we're talking about Dr. Sleep. Now, Meg is going to see the movie and she's going to record her bit on this in a few days. I saw it, and I'm not giving away any spoilers at the top of this podcast, but I just have to say, Meg, your mind will be blown.
I know. It's very naughty of me that I haven't seen it yet. Like, what sort of Stephen King fan am I right now? / Mike Flanagan fan. We just were talking to somebody yesterday, and he was like, Mike Flanagan is like my new favorite director. And I'm like, yeah, like everything he touches is so amazing. I can't get over it. And I haven't even seen Dr. Sleep yet, but like I'm so ready. My body is ready. Okay, tell me what my favorite thing is going to be.
I can't pick one thing. It's so well done. What I said to you, I feel like it's a love letter. And Mike Flanagan wrote, directed, and edited this. He had Stephen King's blessing. He perfectly merged the book and the original film to become this masterpiece that is, I can't describe it any way besides so much honor, respect. It's a love letter.
I can't wait. I'm sure I'm going to be going through a whole roller coaster of emotions while I'm watching it. The Shining is so important to me. And now the book, Dr. Sleep, came out in 2013, and I read it right away. I think maybe my expectations were so high when the book came that I've discussed before, it's not my favorite Stephen King book. I do want to reread it, but I feel like the movie is going to be just amazing. So I'm trying not to let the books, maybe how it wasn't my favorite, I'm trying not to let that like color my feelings.
I think, like I said, I don't think I can build it up too much for you, because even if it's too built up, it will still, it's so many things that I can't describe. I mean, I will after you see it, but you know.
And Ewan McGregor, Mike Flanagan, Ewan McGregor, The Shining, Dr. Sleep, Danny Torrance, I just can't, Kelly. Like, am I going to explode? Am I going to spontaneously combust?
Yeah, I almost sprouted wings and flew out of the theater, because, like, what else am I supposed to do with all of this knowledge? And I think I say this a lot, but I think we're in a shared coma or like a fever dream or something, because how can this all be happening right now? We are alive. This happened in 2019. This is real. I mean,
how many years have people wanted a Shining sequel? And then it came and in book form, and now it's here in film form, and it's one of my new favorite directors. And I'm ready. So when I go to see it in a couple days, I'll be recording my thoughts. And I'm sorry in advance if I'm like squealing a lot.
It's fine. I'll just put I'll have to set the limits on like the pitch or whatever. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so stay tuned. Now we're going to get into spoilers and hear our thoughts on Dr. Sleep. So I'm here with Mark, and we saw Dr. Sleep together on opening night. We ended up seeing it on the, like, what is that? It's not called IMAX anymore. What kind of screen is that called?
I can't remember. I'm sorry.
I mean, I don't think it's I don't know. We're old. But anyway, we had to see it on there because of the time that we could go. It's not my favorite because they don't have the reclining seats. Now I'm whining for no reason. But I enjoyed it on the large screen. It was very entertaining, and we are going to get into spoilers now. So this movie, all of these, how they recreated scenes from the original Shining, ultra screen, that's what it's called.
I looked it up. I cheated, but yeah, ultra screen with a copyright after it. Yep.
Okay. With all of the scenes that they recreated with so much care and love, as I said earlier, I feel like it was a love letter, and it was so well done. And my goodness, how fascinating to follow Danny Torrance and see what happened to him and his mom after they left that hotel. And P.S., I have to say one thing I'm really happy about. All these movies now are recreating scenes with actual actors, and then they use the technology to make them look younger. They didn't do that in this movie. They just cast actors who sort of looked like them, but it wasn't like impersonators. I feel like they did a really good job. How did you feel about that choice?
Yeah, that's a good point. I think we've actually talked about this on the podcast. You don't see what happens to these people after this trauma, but yeah, this movie did a very good job of showing how it really affected Danny. Yeah, Danny. It really.
It changed his whole life.
Totally, yeah. He, the opening, like, I think you're introduced to him. What's his name? Not Conor McGregor.
Ewan McGregor.
Ewan McGregor. He's in a bar. He fights somebody. He's doing cocaine. He's throwing up, and then he sleeps with some random lady. And I think she's like passed out, and then he sees like a 3-year-old kid there. It's really, really bad. And that
reminded me a lot of Trainspotting, which he was in, and how he was hallucinating that baby because the baby ended up actually dying. Remember, because they were all high, and they didn't feed the baby for several days. That's so dark. And this too, he was having nightmares that maybe she died and that kid was going to die. And so it's explained that he's drinking because he's trying to diminish the shine and not connect with people in this way because it scares him and he's trying to get away from that. So he became an alcoholic because of it.
And just going back a little bit, you see him as I think was it in 1980 in Florida as a child, and they show him going to the bathroom, and there's the ghost or whatever is in the bathtub, and he just like ignores it and goes to the bathroom. So it just shows that he's gotten used to this existence that he's leading.
Yes, it's so cool and well done, and that this place, the Overlook, is still haunting him, even though he's not there anymore. And what a concept. And of course, if that was my reality, I'd probably do things to try to dull that too.
I don't know if you mentioned this already, but they recreated the scene from the Shining where he's on a big wheel, like riding down the hallway with that certain red and black carpet. I thought that was pretty cool. And then you mentioned that the same logo in the opening credits as The Shining.
Yes, it was so good. And it just gave me all the feels because I can't believe that this exists. It has Stephen King's approval. It's not like a fan film or something. It's actually made with Mike Flanagan, who is so amazing. And it was done with such care that it was incredible. And how about this casting? Like every single person was great. And I think you mentioned to me, like these kid actors, like they're beyond.
Yeah, I'm always really impressed. Like I have kids, obviously, but when these kid actors are just so good, like how do they get them to act so well at such a young age?
I know. It's really incredible. They're just beyond great. So I liked he's fleeing. Ewan McGregor is fleeing, and he ends up meeting this guy who just gets a good feeling about him. He's going to help him out. He gets him this apartment, and it's $85 a week. That's a pretty good deal. He's offering him a job. Like he brings him to AA. This guy, he literally saved his life.
Yeah, Danny was really on a bad path. I can't remember how he was on a bus, right? And he just got off the bus, and the guy saw him. He's like, "Did you get off the bus?" And he helped him. So that was a good gesture. I can't remember what actor that guy was. Do you?
He was. I can't remember now either. But we looked him up because he's been in so much. I really love that, and he's got that chalkboard wall. And then that, of course, comes into play because he starts talking with the girl who has the shine as well. And they're communicating and they end up, having to defeat this this cult of people who, it's like they're vampires, but they literally, steal the shine from people. And wow. Okay. Jacob Tremblay, was the victim with the baseball glove, if you remember. I mean, I'm skipping around now, but his scene, it was brutal. They killed him and they, buried him, and he's such a great little actor. And I mean, that he's a legit actor too. Like, he's been in some stuff, but wow. Oh, and I love that his baseball jersey was number 19. It's the reason that my email address has the number 19 in it is because it's from the Dark Tower series, and it's an important number in Stephen King, the Stephen King universe. And so, there were all just these little winks, these little subtle things that, you could just tell it was made by a fan with love.
Yeah. These gypsies, like, I thought they were more like gypsies. They just like ride around in RVs. I thought, they were it was like a super diverse group of people. It was all nationalities, different ages. I thought that was pretty interesting.
Oh yeah. And the, what is it called? The Moonlight Man from Gerald's Game, that really tall guy. He was one of the people, and that was a great role. And they talk about all the times in history, where they were and who they fed off of, and so gross. And the main baddie, this woman, is so creepy, and her, second in command his name was Crow. He is the guy from Westworld, who, one of my favorite episodes, we followed his, story, and that was really great. So yeah, really, really interesting premise. And I knew nothing because I have not read the book. And so I went in cold, and I was very impressed. It was like, what a great concept.
Yeah, just on the Westworld thing, the maze wasn't meant for you, Kelly.
Oh, yes. And guess what? There's a maze in this movie.
Good point. Yes, I didn't even think of that. Good.
Wow.
I thought it was cool. I call her the Hat Lady. Yeah, the cult lady. I thought it was interesting. She didn't really age from 1980 to 2011, and they show that in the beginning. Her in 1980, her in 2011, and you don't really know what's going on. But yeah, she does not age at all.
And then, of course, it's explained why, and it's like they are like vampires. They're remaining eternal. But the catch is, I mean, vampires, it's pretty easy to go out and just suck blood from anybody or anything with blood. But these people, it's so specific. You have to find somebody with the shine, and it's not always easy to find them. And it's not everywhere.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering that during, like, how do they pick their victims? But then, it seemed to be these certain, usually kids that have this gift or different thing about them that they tend to target them, and they can find them through, I don't even know what you call it. It's like, I don't know, through your mind somehow.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool how they were basically stalking people, and they missed Ewan McGregor when he was a kid somehow because he was diminishing his shine for so long that they didn't catch him. Was that it? I don't know, or maybe they weren't in the States when he was a kid, like in 1980. I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't really catch. Yeah, but that's a good point. He was one of them. They missed him, so he was able to come back and ultimately conquer them.
And so this job that Ewan ultimately gets, he is working in this hospice home, and he gets the name of Dr. Sleep because he is following this cat, basically, because the cat knows when people are about to die, and then Ewan can go in and help them feel better and relax before they die. And I thought that was really sweet, and it was really a nice plot line, like he's using his gift for good. And I think the guy's room, like in one of the scenes, was 217, which of course is the actual room number from the book, The Shining. It was changed to 237 when they shot at the hotel because they were like, oh, we want to change the room number because we don't want people to be nervous about staying in that room. But obviously everyone's going to want to stay in the 237 anyway, like whatever.
If I ever went there, and I think we actually went there, the Stanley Hotel. I would definitely stay in that room.
I know, absolutely. And fun fact, and so that's not where they shot The Shining, the movie, but they shot the miniseries there, and that's where Stephen King was staying when he, got inspiration for the book. But that's also where they stay in Dumb and Dumber.
Another great movie. I mean, Dumb and Dumber, the here you go, here you go, here you go scene, that was at the hotel, right?
Yes, exactly. So, yeah, it's iconic.
I thought it was cool how not cool, but the cult people, like, stored their, like, steam, I think they called it, like, when they killed the kids in these little bottles, and they would, from time to time, like, have to just open it up and just all inhale a little bit. It was kind of like a weird drug or something.
Yes, and I didn't know, like, the scene with the, I can't remember her name now, but the girl with the short blonde hair, when she gets that guy to go to sleep in the movie theater, and then she's cutting him and she steals his money and stuff. I was like, is she gonna end up being a good guy or a bad guy? But she was a bad guy, and she became one of them, and wow, that was rough.
So they knew about her killing these guys, and then they wanted to, like, include her into their cult thing?
Yeah, because she could control people on, like, they all had different kind of gifts, and they could use that gift then if she became one of them. So they didn't want to steal her shine. They wanted to use it in order to, influence people, because she could get into their minds.
Makes sense to me, yeah.
Yeah, she had a good power, I guess, that they could use.
I thought one of the really cool scenes was this ghost lady. I think it was in Danny's apartment. She was dead, and she was, like, crawling up to him. I could be off on this, but there was, like, flies crawling around on her face and, like, on her eyeballs, but she wasn't blinking. And to me, that was just, like, a really just made me feel weird.
I know. The horror was good in this movie. It had those moments when it was just like I had to, like, cover my mouth. It was that, like, ooh, creepy, and it made me feel it too.
And then the white light glowing in the eyes of those cult people, is that is The Shining, or what? Yeah,
I guess that it was lighting up when they were getting that from people, and it was a really nice touch because it just added to the creep factor. And they just seemed so nice, they just seem like, oh, we're just, we're like hippies, we're free out here living, but really they're the worst.
And they seem to like music from, like, the 1930s, and for some reason, so every time they showed them hanging out in their caravan thing or whatever, they were always listening to, like, 1930s music.
Yeah, that was an interesting touch. I liked it. So they were, definitely old school.
And then also, I thought the cult people, it reminded me of the video game Red Dead Redemption 2, because in that game, everyone's hanging out in, like, a camp, and there's all these different people around. And the main person, like, the head of the gang, his name's Dutch, and he wears a hat, and the head lady in that also wore a hat, just like his.
Yes. Oh, yeah, so I love this. What's the girl's name who has the shine, who Ewan's communicating with? I can't remember now. Anyway, she has this gift, of course, and she and the hat lady, they go into each other's minds, and she's got this really powerful shine. I like those scenes when we are seeing through the perspective of she's in her mind, and then she goes into the girl's mind, and her memory is portrayed through filing cabinets, and that was really cool. It reminded me of Sherlock Holmes' Mind Palace, and how you have, different rooms and how you store things. And of course, that was ultimately a trap, and it was so smart. She gets her hand stuck in a drawer, and it literally rips the flesh off of her hand. And I was thinking, that's another. It must be in the book, but Stephen King, must have a thing about that, because that was in Gerald's game as well, when the woman had her hand in the handcuff and had to tear her flesh. So gross.
That was a really cool visual when she realized she was caught, and the only way to get out was to just rip her hand out as hard as she could. And yeah, it was I was feeling it.
So when that old guy dies, the tall guy, it was weird and creepy. And then, you feel like, oh, they're going to be sad and have sympathy for him, but they just go in like vultures, to get every last bit of steam from him. And it just shows that they have no humanity left.
Yeah, I mean, they kind of tried to save him. But yeah, once they realized it was all over, they all got ready to breathe them all in, take them all in. And, they were pretty like greedy about it. Like, I need this obviously to survive. So, I guess I can't blame them for that.
I turned to you at one point and I was like, how are they going to defeat these people? Because they seem unstoppable, but there's this shootout scene. Thank God they can just be killed like a vampire or a zombie or whatever. And not even, you don't even have to have something special like a wooden stake or silver bullets. You can just shoot them and they die in like a pretty cool way. And so this shootout scene was really impressive. And oh my gosh, though, his friend who literally, saved his life, he dies. And that's so sad.
That was a cool scene. They somehow, did they make them think that girl was there? So they all came there. And then they were up, it was in the woods, and they were up on a hill with guns, and they just started like popping them off one by one. And then the cult people realized what was going on. And I think most of them died except for the lady, and I think the crow guy was with somebody else, so he wasn't even there. But yeah, that was a good scene.
So yeah, remember he ended up, they knew it was a trap, and so he ended up going and kidnapping the girl at the same time. And then the woman had stayed back because they said, if you're there, she's going to be able to detect you. And so the friend's death scene, that blonde woman that right before she died, remember she can get into people's minds and convince them to do something. She told that guy to kill himself, and he shot himself, and it was so sad. Wasn't that so sad?
Totally, yes. That was very, yeah. Thought everything's okay, and then all of a sudden it was like, and then I think Danny's like realized it was happening, but it was too late, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
One aside, Crow has the same exact facial hair as Kevin Federline, K-Fed, so I just thought that was funny.
I haven't heard that name in years. As I take a puff of a cigarette. Yeah, no, seriously, I haven't thought about K-Fed in a long time. But yeah, he did have similar facial hair. Okay, at this point, it's almost, it seems like the climax of the movie. And I'm like, Mark, there's still an hour left. Or, a little less than an hour. I said they still have to go to the hotel. It seemed, I didn't know that it was going to happen, but it seemed like the logical next step. And you're like, oh my God, I got to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, you said, I felt like it was coming all to an end. And you're like, well, they have to go to the hotel. And I didn't even think of that. And Kelly, again, was right. They go to the hotel. So, yes, I had to miss a minute or two of the movie, but I was very careful to like run down the stairs, go to the bathroom, and get right back, so I didn't miss much.
And how they recreated everything and the things that are left, and it was just abandoned. Ewan McGregor looking through the hole in the bathroom door where his father cut through with an axe and said, "Here's Johnny," and his mother was screaming in terror. What the heck? I can't even believe that. Yeah, and then they show they intercut the scenes that, they recreated. I can't even believe that this exists. And him, waking up the hotel, but ultimately it was a trap, and he knew he was setting the trap and that he was probably going to end up perishing, and he did. It was a big spoiler alert for the end, but it is so good. And I just love how it paralleled when Jack Nicholson is coming after Shelley Duvall, and she's got the bat and he's got the axe, but yet it was like reverse, and now Danny was the one, in place of his mother, and then this hat lady. Oh, and then he sets the hotel people on her. That was so good.
Yeah, all the hotel stuff was really good. I thought it was an interesting decision to actually show the actual cut back from the original Shining movie of his dad looking through the door. But it was cool. I mean, that really, made it real. And the ballroom bar is just awesome. Like, I want to go there.
I know. They need to recreate this and, like, have a Shining themed hotel. And, where you can actually go stay and, like, people are in costume and stuff and you do a murder mystery. I don't know. I think that'd be awesome.
Yeah, and, like, talk to that bartender guy one-on-one. That'd be... Yeah.
So it's cool because, you think, you don't know right away because they don't show him. You think, oh, maybe it's the original bartender from the Shining movie who Jack Torrance is talking to, but it's actually his dad. And, it is Jack Torrance that he's talking to. And he is a ghost of the Overlook now. And wow, so powerful. And he's trying to get him to drink. He's trying to get him to drink his drink, the Jack Daniels, and he doesn't do it. And I was just like, please don't.
His dad had a really interesting thing about how alcohol is the medicine that erases the blackboard of your mind.
Oh.
So that's like why his dad, it's like, drink to forget, but Danny knew better, so he didn't fall for the trick.
Oh, that's good. I forgot about that line. I'm glad you wrote it down. That was amazing. And then, the woman shows up and, they have this big end sequence, but it's not just her that needs to be defeated. It's the place. Yes.
And I wrote down, I like the mind tricks and games over just being like a physical fight. But I don't remember why I wrote that down.
No, it's good. Yeah, it is because everything was like a trap and you have to be one step ahead and be clever. And yeah, that girl, had the power and she was able to outwit the Hat Lady, which was awesome. So I know this is how I felt. When we saw It Chapter 2, I was like, this is good, but it's too long. This movie for me, I could have watched 3 more hours of it and been happy in that world. I know for you though, and maybe it was because you had to go to the bathroom. I know for you it got a little bit long.
I feel like that has happened now. Yeah, like you said, in It 2 and in this one. Because maybe it's because I feel like the movie's coming to an end, and then you're like, wait, there's still an hour? And then the end is so epic, but it gets kind of long for me sometimes. But I still enjoyed it. I just felt like it was a bit long.
Okay, yeah, well, that's fair. And we did see a 9:30 showing, so it was pretty late. But like I said, I could have sat there another 3 hours so happily. I was completely enamored with this whole movie.
So full disclosure, I had curling league at 8:00, but I was able to make it to the movie before the previews. It's in the same building, luckily, which is awesome. But yeah, so that's why we had to go see the late one. So I'm sorry, Kelly.
Yeah, no, it worked out. It ended up being fine. I love at the end that it's revealed that now Ewan McGregor, or Danny Torrance, is now like Dick Hallorann was to him, and he's going to be her guide. And I mean, I think I would read a novel now about her life and growing up and what's going to happen next. I mean, and then make a sequel. I want to keep living in this world.
Yeah, I mean, the story just keeps perpetuating itself and continuing. So, yeah, it was a good way to end it. And I think at the end it showed her going into the bathroom and the
bathtub lady.
The bathtub ghost lady was in there, and it was the same as him. It was just like, okay, there you are. I'm just going to go to the bathroom or whatever. So it just showed like that this is now just a regular part of her life.
And I think she was going in to put it into one of those boxes like Dick Hallorann taught him, because, she's going in with confidence. She's not running away. And in her mind palace, or whatever it is that they call it in the book, she can just trap it in these boxes. And just like how Danny unleashed them on the Hat Lady. Okay, so let's rank this movie on a scale of 0 to 10. 0 being you hated it, 10 being it's a perfect movie. What should our scale be for Dr. Sleep?
Man, I don't even know. It's so much going on.
I know. I feel like, do we go with like steam tubes?
I was kind of thinking that.
Let's do it then, because we both had that idea. Okay. So how many steam tubes do you give Dr. Sleep?
I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. I've seen The Shining. I haven't seen it recently, so I wasn't super familiar with it. And I mean, I liked it, but I wasn't like obsessed with it. So I didn't get all like the different callbacks and stuff. But yeah, this was a really solid movie. Good acting by everybody. Made me feel, it made me feel creepy. I liked how there was like all these different storylines that somehow at the beginning seemed like they weren't really connected, but they all kind of came together at the end. Yeah, I enjoyed it, and I would recommend it.
I am giving Dr. Sleep 10 out of 10 steam tubes because it did everything for me that I didn't even realize it could. It brought me nostalgia. It brought me Stephen King. It brought me Ewan McGregor. It gave me a plot that I wasn't expecting, that I thoroughly enjoyed. And so it was like this old world and this new world completely, perfectly meshed and opened up, and I loved it. Now,
yeah, it's like this movie was just tailor-made for you.
Yes, I know. It's like, am I in a coma, Mark? Is this just like, have I been in a coma for like 3 years or something and I'm dreaming this? Because this just seems too perfect.
I don't know. Maybe you're dreaming. Maybe it's real. I don't know.
Oh, boy. Okay, so let's listen to Meg's thoughts.
Okay, Horror Rewinders, I got to see Dr. Sleep last night, finally, and Kelly talked it up, but as she said, she really couldn't talk it up too much. My expectations were through the roof when I went in, and they were all met, if not exceeded. So, what did I think? Oh my goodness. Well, first of all, I haven't heard Kelly and Mark's discussion about Dr. Sleep, so it'll be funny. This could be very redundant and repetitive because Kelly and I tend to share the same brain sometimes. So it'll be interesting to hear after I sort of lay out what she said. This was such a tall order for Mike Flanagan to create, and I am just blown away by the mastery in which he did it. First of all, there is the world of The Shining as far as the 2 books, and then there is The Shining the film, and as I was watching, I was kind of pinging all over, sort of thinking about these sort of 2 pretty distinct universes and how Mike Flanagan somehow brought it all together. And I don't know how he did it. If I was tasked with making Dr. Sleep, I think I wouldn't even know where to begin. Right away, they start out with that Shining music, and throughout the film they have the music, that distinctive heartbeat and the just unique sound of The Shining, and that's something that just really comes through film that you're not able to get with the book, is that like Shining world and then it turning into the sort of Dr. Sleep world. And I think that was one thing I didn't like about the book, is that it felt so far away from the world of The Shining that it was sort of hard to really see it as a sequel, which I know sounds bizarre being that we're, following along with Danny Torrance. But I think in the film, the visual ability to connect it to the Kubrick film really made it feel more like a sequel than the book. I love so many things about it. First, I'm a huge Ewan McGregor fan. And I think that if, we could close our eyes and think of what Danny Torrance would look like as a grown-up and how he would act, I feel like he nailed it. And again, the casting of the actors to be, Scatman Crothers and Shelley Duvall was spot on. I mean, the actress who plays Wendy Torrance, her voice, you could tell that she had studied The Shining very much, and her cadence of voice was perfect, and not just her look. And of course, who knew Henry Thomas looked so much like Jack Nicholson? That was creepy, but also well done, because he wasn't really trying to do a Jack Nicholson impression, which can be very derivative. So it was good. And wow, just to go back to the Overlook, that's something that didn't happen in the book, because of course in the Shining book universe, the Overlook has already burned down after the first book. So we don't get all that in the book. So that was my favorite part, the climax, going back to the Overlook, going inside, and oh my gosh, my heart soared. I was smiling so hard. So that was definitely my favorite part, that climax. And oh my gosh, Abra in this book, I'm sorry, in this movie, but also the book. She was so well done, and I loved her relationship with Danny, and I felt like it just, the poignancy of it really came through, as well as his friendship with Billy, played by Cliff Curtis. So there's just a number of things I could go on and on about. You know, I think one thing I mentioned to Luke after we saw it, and by the way, P.S., Luke actually covered his eyes during this movie, and he didn't during it. So I think that that's a really good sign. That is a lot scarier, and I thought it was, especially the woman in the bathtub, which is always, you know, the memorable, scary part of The Shining. Mike Flanagan did such a good job. Oh my gosh, my mind's just racing and rushing because there's so much to talk about. But, I was going to say that one thing I realized about the book that wasn't my favorite, and, you know, again, in the movie, is this whole idea of the true knot and Rose the Hat. I think it's not particularly my favorite sort of villain, the sort of vampire looking for maybe not immortality, but a long life. I think that particular motivation isn't my favorite, and maybe that was one of the things I didn't necessarily like about Dr. Sleep as much, but seeing it on screen, and sometimes things just come better in a visual media, especially with just the absolute perfect casting that this movie had, and also the sort of intertwining of The Shining, and oh my gosh, like things like, for instance, the doctor's office, when he is hired on by the nursing home, and the doctor's office is an exact replica of the office from the beginning of The Shining. That was so exciting, but as you can see, my mind's all over the place, and I just want to talk about everything. In the book, the most disturbing scene, the baseball boy, so to speak, Jacob Tremblay, is extremely disturbing. It's one of the most memorable Stephen King deaths for me, because it deals with a young boy, and they did not sugarcoat it in the movie, so that was really disturbing and scary and upsetting and unsettling, and I thought they nailed it. And it just, the way that they made it its own film, you know, it didn't feel like you were sitting down watching The Shining, yet it was tinged with The Shining everywhere in just the perfect amount. And I'm just so excited that Mike Flanagan exists. And I can totally see why Stephen King said, you know, that this had sort of redeemed The Shining. Now, obviously, The Shining is my favorite movie of all time, so I feel differently. But I can see where Stephen King's coming from, because, of course, at the end of Dr. Sleep, we get sort of the ending of the original Shining, the book, where Jack Torrance, he blows up the Overlook Hotel, and we really feel the poignancy and the emotion. And I think that's what upset Stephen King, was that we didn't feel the way toward Jack Torrance in Kubrick's The Shining that he wanted us to, but we got that in this movie, where we got to feel that emotion and empathy toward Danny Torrance that he wanted us to feel toward Jack Torrance in the book, and he was hoping in the Kubrick film. But of course, you know, it goes a different route, and Jack Nicholson really portrays Jack Torrance as, you know, really inherently evil, even without the ghosts. So I can see how this warmed Stephen King's heart, because he kind of got the ending he always wanted in The Shining. But yeah, it was a roller coaster of emotions as a Shining, like, just obsessy, and it could not have been better. Like I said, it was such a tall order, and I can't even imagine trying to, you know, deal with the book. And the book itself, Dr. Sleep, is so different in sort of tone and setting than The Shining, yet somehow he sort of mixed it all together in this perfect cocktail, and it blew me away, like I said. So I know that Dr. Sleep, you know, unfortunately it didn't get the box office receipts of a movie like, you know, the It movies, but it was so much better than It Part 2. You know, that's an example of It, the book, is better than the It films, but this is an example of where I would have to say I like the film better than the book, which, you know, I don't say very often, but this is definitely one of those times, especially because we got that climax in the Overlook Hotel, which we don't get in the book. So, oh my gosh, just seeing every inch of the Overlook was so exciting. And I mean, things like, for instance, on the stairs, where, if you recall, Jack and Wendy, when Jack is the threat and Wendy is trying to hit him with the baseball bat, and now it's reversed, and we have the female being the villain, and we have Danny being the one threatened. And I thought, and it was like they were standing perfectly where the other two had stood, and it was such a great reversal. Just things like that just, oh my gosh, I can't wait to watch it again and find all the little Easter eggs too. I mean, of course, there was the number 19, and there was all, you know, reference to 217, and there's all those little things for us. So, if you can't tell, I'm giving it a 10 out of 10, and I hope that you go out and see it if I haven't spoiled it already. And if you have seen it, you should go out and see it again and get word of mouth, because I think it's really just an important film, and I want people to go see it. So those are my thoughts, and I can't wait to hear what Kelly and Mark have to say. So thanks, guys, for listening.
With The Science of Monsters coming out in October, Meg and I have been on a whirlwind of doing some press and some book signings, and one of the highlights was being in New York City, where we got to see Beetlejuice the Musical and Moulin Rouge. And Meg, what a time to be alive.
I know, I feel so lucky. I know so many people would love the opportunity to see Beetlejuice the Musical. I hope that they end up touring or something, because I just want everybody to see it.
Yeah, it will absolutely, definitely, I think, tour. Something that's interesting is a lot of shows, I mean, several shows that opened the same time Beetlejuice did have already closed, and they're not, you know, on Broadway anymore, you know, because you've got to maintain some sort of, you know, number of ticket sales in order to keep the show running in one of those theaters, and it doesn't look like it's closing anytime soon because it keeps selling out.
Yeah, the line was long, and so many people were dressed as Beetlejuice or in their Beetlejuice gear, which like really warmed my heart. And it was really quite an experience to see it on the stage and sort of retold, and it was quite different than the movie. There were some differences that they decided to go with, and so I think anybody going in, it's probably good to know that going in.
Yeah, and at first we were like, why did they make these choices? But as adaptations happen from book to screen or from movie to stage, things might need to change for storytelling reasons, for song and dance reasons, for plot and characterization. And even though, we didn't know about the plot changes, and at intermission, we talked a little bit about it, and we decided to just go along for the ride, and it was worth it. And I won't spoil the changes here, but I think that they made the choices and the changes that they needed to in order to be the best musical that they needed to be.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was one of those times where you kind of have to like unclench your butt and just be like, let them sort of lead you. I think when it's something as beloved as Beetlejuice, I'm sure a lot of you listening feel the same way, and it's one of your favorite movies. I know it's really sacred for me, but I think that if you can appreciate why they made those changes and you can sort of go along with it and maybe wait till the end to make your judgment call, that would be my advice. But I think it really captured the spirit of Beetlejuice. He was hilarious. Everybody was laughing. It was great.
Alex Brightman is playing him on Broadway, and he is... I turned to Meg at one point after a number, and I said, some people are born to be a star, and this guy, he's so funny, he's so natural, he manipulates his voice as Beetlejuice. I don't know how he's doing that and has a voice the next hour or day, but he's doing this 8 shows a week, so he must have figured it out. But he's really great, and follow him on Twitter and Instagram because he has a really cute puppy.
That's the best reason. And the woman who portrayed Lydia, I loved her so much, and her singing voice was so beautiful, and the choices she made as that character, I really felt that she embodied Lydia, and I don't know, and I mean, I think those were the two that the characters were the best and probably the closest to the film.
I cannot believe just visually how gorgeous this show was. So a little bit of critique, and I'm not, you don't have to, you can take this or leave this. I love musicals. I didn't love every number in this show, but I still loved the show.
Yeah, I mean, I like the music. I'm probably not, I certainly don't know as much about musical theater as you do, and I don't have, like, really preferences. I mean, I'm one of the, like, goats that probably like anything, the sheep. So I enjoy the music, but for me, the set design, the sandworm, the little nods to the movie, and I mean, it's more than nods, but there are little things like the guy with the shrunken head appearing, that was awesome, and all those kinds of things. It just made me feel so happy. I just had a big smile on my face.
It was truly lovely, and they have some really great merch. So, yeah, if you get a chance to check out Beetlejuice on Broadway, definitely do. Also, it will tour eventually, and catch it in a city near you because it's worth it. So, speaking of the book tour and everywhere we've been, we have been so fortunate to be hosted by a couple of great venues. One of our close by venues was called Blush. It's in Duluth, and we have to thank them and Daniel and everybody there for just an amazing time, being great hosts, and decorating with his personal VHS collection was a really nice touch.
Oh my gosh, we had so much fun that night. And yes, he had his personal horror VHS collection, and many of them were signed, which was very impressive. And it sort of made me jealous. And I'm like, I need a VHS collection like this.
I know. Why did we get rid of our VHS? We're fools. So the other great venue, and if you're in New York City, you have to check it out. It's called Caveat. Their tagline is intelligent nightlife. And they're talking about, you go in and then you come out a little bit smarter and a little bit drunker. And so it's this science-themed bar, basically, and every night they have at least one show, sometimes two shows on different topics. And you go in there and learn, and it's just a good time. They've got food, they've got drink, they've got this really amazing wall of books that you can purchase and other science-themed things. It was so fun, and it was just an awesome place to talk about the science of monsters.
Yeah, it was a really good time. We enjoyed that so much. They were so professional. We loved working with the people there, and the crowd was great. They were up for a good time, and they asked interesting questions, and I can't wait to do another show at Caveat. It was so fun.
So if you want to see us come and talk about the science of monsters or our next book, The Science of Women in Horror, or any horror topic, and you have a great venue in your town, let us know, and we'd love to come out and see you. It's been so much fun, and we can't wait to be going to more places now throughout this winter as we tour with our next book. So speaking of plays and touring, you got to see a stage adaptation of my very first horror movie, Night of the Living Dead. We talked about this when you were in high school. We were like, we should adapt that for the stage, and we never did. Well, somebody did, and tell us about it, Meg.
Okay, so it was at my local theater, the Rochester Civic Theater in Minnesota, and my mom actually saw about it first, and she suggested that we go, and of course I went. So obviously, when you're talking about that compared to a Broadway show, you kind of have to it's a whole other thing. But the stage design I thought was beautiful. They did such a great job. It's the house, but then there's also an outdoor section to the left, and then to the right they have the basement built. So I was very impressed by that, and it was all era, so they stuck with the 1960s. The characters were very well done. I mean, it was very faithful to the to the movie. I mean, there are a couple things that they had to change, but even like, for instance, how they the couple dies in the fire, they actually showed that with lights and sound and everything like that. So they went ahead with that. And I think my favorite part is that the zombies trickle in throughout the show. So it just starts out with the one zombie, and they're coming to get you, Barbara. But during the entire show, they're outside on that left side of the stage, and they're also going through the audience. So they would come and stare at you. They would, several times I got spooked behind my shoulder where a zombie was starting to like come up. And then they would sort of trickle around, and they would be trying to get into the house. And it was all so well done. That was my favorite part, like kind of interactive. I mean, no zombies touched us. And they actually tell you beforehand, like, don't touch zombies. But it was such an experience. It was only 60 minutes, so it was like kind of this short, brutal play, but it had the same ending. They actually did a little thing at the end to kind of like bring it up, like to sort of bring, so it's not so depressing at the end. But I don't know, it was really fun, and I love seeing local theater do horror, first of all, but also be inspired by a film like that and turn it into a play. And it was just excellent. It was so fun.
I love that. Okay, I want to do that now. I want to do that production. That sounds very cool. I was going to ask if they touched anybody, because that seems illegal, but also creepy AF.
Yeah, it was. Actually, I think the worst spook I got was I looked over, and there was a kid. There were several kid zombies, and there was a kid zombie just sitting on like the stairs, because I was like right on the aisle, and the kid zombie is just kind of like playing with like a little dolly like beside me. It was very well done, because you're like watching the show, and then all of a sudden you like turn around and you're like, oh my god.
I freaking love that. I love it. Okay, so yes, go see plays in your community or on Broadway or wherever you can support them, because why not? We're in this crazy horror genre, and there's so much content. Let's find the best and let us know about it. Thank you so much for listening, Horror Rewinders. Until next time, we'll see you in the horror section.
Bye.